What's up, guys? Welcome to Vintage Genetics, where it is all about classic bodybuilding. And today I'm going to talk to you about rest periods, rest times in between sets. The number one question I get when I design workout plans for people is, how much rest should I take in between sets? And then some people also try to distinguish in between compound exercises, having more rest there compared to isolation movements, having more rest in between squat sets compared to a bicep curl, for example. That is all true, but in my opinion, you should never set your rest time in between sets. What I mean by that is that it should depend on how ready you are to attack the next set with full power. Now, this is contradictory to what a lot of people, including myself, used to say back in the day. But if you go back to classic bodybuilding, the prime example of Arnold actually literally saying, don't save up for the next set. Treat every set like it's your last one. Because at the end of the workout, when you know that it's the very last chance you have to give it your all, you will actually give it your all, because after that, there's nothing else to do, and then you have to have given it your all, otherwise it would have been a waste of a workout. So my point here is that he was right. Every single set should be like giving it your absolute best, your all. However, as a bodybuilder, we are not as good in recovering our body in terms of oxygen demand, getting all the oxygen back in our muscles in a short time. For example, if you do a heavy back squat or any leg movement like a leg press, a hack squat, and we do 10 reps and we go to failure and we really went to failure on that 10th rep, we are tired. We just can't just stand up, walk around like nothing happened. If you do it correctly, trust me, you will have to catch your breath. And that catching your breath takes time. You are catching your breath because your muscles are now depleted of energy, of oxygen mostly, and it needs to be replenished. Your heart rate is up here because your heart is pumping out all the blood throughout your body to feed that muscle that was just exhausted with nutrients and oxygen. So if you then have on your plan or on your phone, okay, this 2 minutes are counting down, and when it's counted down, I have to do the next set. Even though your heart rate is still up, even though you're still heavy breathing, you won't be able to give it your all during that last set. And one of the main principles of muscle building, guess what? It is mechanical tension. The maximum mechanical tension we can put in a muscle for the most amount of reps we can. And usually that's, a broad rep range between 6 or 5 and 30 reps. If you hit failure in between those reps, in that rep range, you will build muscle. So if you are not ready yet to hit the next set, you won't be able to do as many reps as you possibly could have with that weight because you're still tired from the previous set. That is the problem with counting your rest in between sets. So if we keep to the example of the 2 minutes, those 2 minutes, that's an absolute number, not based on your subjective recovery at the time. Because depending on the day, depending how well you slept, depending on the food you ate that day, depending if you work out in the morning or the evening, those 2 minutes feel very different. Yes, on some days, those 2 minutes might be enough to give it your all in the next set, but other days it might not be. So I personally follow a logbook. On my phone, I just fill in, for example, let's stick with the squats. You do 10 reps of 200 kilos. You see that in your logbook. However, you can only hit that again if you are fully energized, fully oxygenated to make sure that you can give it your all in that set. If you are still tired from previous movements from a previous set, and you try to hit that set of 10 times 200 kilos, you might not be able to, not because you're not strong enough, but because you're too tired. We are bodybuilders. We want to build muscle. We don't necessarily want to work on our stamina or conditioning in terms of how fast we can recover in between sets. Sure, this will improve as you keep improving your lifts, if you keep working out consistently, but that's not the end goal. The end goal is to build muscle. And the best way to build muscle is to increase the mechanical tension as high as we can for as long as you can. So the height of the mechanical tension, so the severity of it, and the time under tension of the muscle, those two factors play an enormous role in building muscle. If you limit those two by still being tired from the previous set, you will limit muscle growth. So my tip is, if you have done your warm-ups, you don't necessarily have to rest for a long time in between warm-ups because you will be ready within a minute. You should be at least, otherwise the warm-up is too heavy. But when you hit the working sets, sometimes it can take up to 5 minutes for me on a leg movement to be fully recovered, heart rate-wise, oxygen-wise, heavy breathing-wise, before I can hit that set again, knowing that I am fully prepared to give it my all. You don't want to be hitting a set and you could hit 10 reps and you already feel at 6 because you're breathing too heavy. You don't want to make it a full body exercise. You want to make it an exercise where the muscle is hitting failure and not your lungs. So I used to train for chasing the pump back in the day. Yes, I made a great progress doing so, and I won multiple national shows here in the Netherlands, but getting to the Olympia stage, getting to the maximizing of my muscle mass within my nutrition, supplementation, my training, to maximize everything, I really had to change up my training, and I had to take a look at what I was doing during the workout to maximize muscle growth. And what I wasn't doing is training as heavy as I can because I didn't take the rest. Chasing the pump means you don't want to rest as long because you are afraid that you will lose the pump. But guess what? You can train more sets within a condensed amount of time to create a pump, or you can make the sets that you do last longer to create an even better pump after that set. So an example is, if you could hit 12 reps for 200 kilos on the back squat, for example, using proper rest, in between the pump might be less, but after it would be a lot more than only hitting 6 or 7 reps on the back squat because you were too tired to hit it. So again, hit your movement when you're ready to do so. And usually that can be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or even 5 minutes on the heavy leg movements, for example. But there is a small caveat. At the end of the training, when hitting isolation movements, when you do want to actually not focus on super heavy weight for the biceps, for example, what you then might want to do is rest for a bit shorter because, for example, your heart rate and your oxygen demands aren't so high in between those sets. So when you're used to resting for a long time on the compounds, you might think you would have to do the same for the isolation movements. But if you truly listen to your body, which as bodybuilders we have to do very well, you should realize that when you're doing the biceps, you are ready far sooner than when training a bent over row, for example. So that's a big difference. And one other key factor in knowing when you are ready is your heart rate. So I'm wearing this watch which measures my heart rate. It's pretty accurate actually. So whenever my heart rate goes below 100 after having a very heavy set, then I know I might be ready for the next set if I feel ready and if I'm not breathing as heavy anymore. Because remember, usually a high heart rate and heavy breathing are synergetic, they coincide. So if the heart rate goes down, usually the heavy breathing goes down, and at least at oxygen level, you will be ready to hit that set again. So we are bodybuilders, we're not stamina increasers, we are not people who want to increase their endurance during training. We want to hit the maximum amount of weight with the perfect form, with the maximum time and attention to create the biggest possible muscles we can. Anyway guys, I hope you learned something from this video, and this is just my take on it. I made the most progress for the last 2 years. using this technique, yes, the workouts take a bit longer, but you will get a lot more out of it, so eventually it's more efficient because within less workouts you will build more muscle compared to a lot more workouts you used to do before that lasted shorter. Alright guys, thank you for watching, a lot more is coming, and don't forget to stay good.